All right, now I'm terrified. There's actual people looking at us. I can't be my usual smart aleck myself.
Wait.
Yeah, if you think you're here for
Smart self?
a huge scholarly treatise, this is not the panel.
With your beard and everything, you look like, who's the old man from Logan's Run?
Peter Ustinov.
Peter Ustinov, thank you. I can always count on it. Peter Ustinov, McCavity.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
No,
Ted, go. No, Ted, go.
You started because it was
No,
your idea.
you're the information man. Okay, we're here to talk about 3 or 4 films, depending on how Ted acts about the 4th one. This might be the moment where you see me karate chop him in the throat and he bleeds out. But,
Karate chop in the throat.
yeah. Well, you know.
Well, we wanted to do a panel together again.
We love doing panels together.
And you wanted to, you came up with the subject matter.
I came up with the subject matter because we couldn't figure out what we wanted to do, and I was like, well, why don't we talk about films that we genuinely think are great, that are not as appreciated as the usual stuff like Bride of Frankenstein and Dracula, Son of Frankenstein,
The ones that get the box sets, you know, they're all jammed in the same box.
Yeah, because
over
they
and
don't
over
think
again.
anybody would buy them separately, which is ridiculous. I mean, they put out like some of the lowest low-end horror films, and the new 4K is coming out of a film that you hated back when it came out in '72, and fell asleep on it at the drive-in. But we got the 4K edition; everybody's clamoring for that, and yet here's some masterpieces.
Yes, and and probably to you guys, these are not overlooked for you. I mean, I assume probably not, unless you're new to horror and new to classic movies. But we'll see as we go along, because audience participation is encouraged.
Yeah.
So, you want to start off?
Which film do you want to talk about first?
Well, I think we should.
Which film do you want to talk about first? What do you got?
The Devil's Reign.
The Old Dark House.
The Old Dark House.
Okay.
Who has seen The Old Dark House? Who knows about it? Okay, there's a few here. That's good. That's good.
Most of them, not those two back there. You got to leave. The Old Dark House. What year? 1930.
32.
32. I guess James Whale had already had a huge success with Frankenstein.
And then he did another film that wasn't too successful after that.
What was that?
It was a non-genre film. I just looked it up and I forgot already. But the Frankenstein did so well. He pretty much had carte blanche to do with the universe, with the Lively, a father and son. We're very happy with that.
Well, Frankenstein and Dracula was a double whammy, sort of similar to Star Wars and Close Encounters of the same year. I mean, you got 1-2 punch, and then all of a sudden everybody's clamoring to make those kind of films. And was The Old Dark House before Invisible Man?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought it was both those films that got him The Old Dark House.
And if you know the flourishes of the Bride of Frankenstein and Invisible Man, you know James is he's improving as he goes along with every film. Not that he was already well established. Waterloo Bridge was a really critically acclaimed film that was prior to Frankenstein. But it's based on a book by J.P. Priestley called Benighted. And it actually has to do with like English class structure, classes, and the difference in post-delusioned world of a World War I, of disillusionment amongst a lot of the veterans and stuff. So they call it Old Dark House, an American publication of it. So they have the rights to that, and so they go, and Whale jumps on it, and says, I'll do this. Are we gonna do spoilers, or how are we gonna handle the?
Well, most of the people here have
Seen it.
seen it.
Yeah, I hope, and maybe,
Well, I think we don't have much of a choice. I mean,
Yeah.
We're sort of.
so you wanna tell them the plot, you wanna recap the plot, or,
Yeah, some people are having car trouble, or they're not having car trouble, there's a monstrous storm that these Americans are in. Where are they in? Wales?
Wales,
They're
yes.
in Wales, and there's this whole opening sequence of their car in the mud and water pouring in from the roof and going down into their clothes and everything, and a lot of banter back and forth.
and the car consists of Gloria Stewart, Raymond Massey, and
Melvin Douglas. Three
How's-
people that all would end up either getting nominated for the Oscar or would win it.
When you think of when I think of Douglas and Macy, I don't think monster movies.
No.
I don't think horror films at all. And here are these two guys in a straight out genre horror film.
And only Gloria Stewart in a peripheral way. She did a few horror films, but she was famous for like her movies with James Cagney and Titanic and all that
Of course,
sort of
King
stuff.
Kong, Tid's over.
Right, right.
So, go ahead, I'll finish.
Well, so they finally see this old house, and they dark house, and they
It's dark and it's
there
old.
was a light. There was one with lights, and there was a dark one next to it. So now they go into this. They go to this house, and everybody inside's like really weird. It's a bunch of weirdos in there, like real, prim and proper, sort of looking at first, but then you realize it's all sort of very creepy and spooky, and other people end up showing up, including Charles Lawton.
And his first film he shot in America.
I
Everything
didn't
prior to
know
that was
that.
in English.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You said Lillian Bond.
Yeah, William Bond.
Uh,
And then the we got Ernest Thesiger.
yeah.
Yes,
Huge fan base
one of the
for him
family.
still.
He ends up being in Bride as Pretorius, and he's just wonderful in that. But if you like Thesiger in that film, you need to see him in Old Dark House. He is just so over the top, and I'm sure Will encouraged him to do that.
Yes. Yes.
And then every family member in this house is cuckoo.
Yeah,
It's
and it gets
crazy.
weirder. The further you go, the weirder it gets. It's been ripped off many times.
It changed at the time, but I don't know how many Old Dark House films prior to that had been, but it actually changes the mode and deconstructs and Whale plays with it,
Yeah.
and established the blueprint further on down the road for everything after that film.
Yeah.
The rain, the wacky people, the dark the house, locked doors, closet, everything in this thing. It's just if you're not in the mood, if you're not a person who doesn't like a strong narrative, super ABC or the third act, everything structured, you might not like this film. This film is all over the map. It goes, in my mind, it's like anything goes. It's just so wacky, and in a good way.
Well, it was kind of funny because how many times, I mean, you even watched an episode of something like Get Smart, and there's you don't want to go upstairs to the third floor where things are locked and bolted and everything like that.
It pays off too.
But this sort of is like, there's like one level that you're not supposed to go to with one person in there, and that's bad enough, but then you get all the way to the top, and that's really creepy. I mean, that the person that they find. Everybody does a great job. The sets, it's kind of like a play. You could see it easily being done
Yes.
as a
It was
play.
a
And
play.
it was a play before it was a film?
And on Broadway several times.
Okay, all right. And but even the way it's shot and everything, you can
It's a
see
play.
the stage sets, there. If you go up to watch all of these people and know where their lives are going to go, you're kind of amazed at the cast. It's like one of those ones, like in the 70s, it would have been, all those little boxes at the bottom of the, with the building on fire or whatever, all this cast or whatever. But, okay, so what do we want to talk about in terms of?
Well, I just want to say that there actually is some interesting subtexts if you want to glean them out. It's the atmosphere, the mood. James Whale's just is having fun. You can tell by watching this film that he's really having fun. Like there's a scene with Thesiger, and they're eating dinner, and he keeps it twice. He says it goes, "Have a potato," and it's just so the way it's shot. And obviously I can't do it justice, but it's just a great sequence. What's interesting is, as you go up the levels. There is the patriarch, and he's bound in the room. He can't get out. And I remember seeing it the first time on 16 millimeter. I was in college. The first time I saw this thing, it creeped the heck out of me. I go, what the hell is? And actually, it ends up not to spoil anything. And it's if you don't pay attention, it's acted by a female.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, it was supposed to be a very
But he's looking-
skinny, gaunt man.
He's like almost mummified in his bed, and he's got the whiskers and the wrinkles and everything like that. But then there's another member of the family called Saul, and he's locked into his room, and they will not let him out. And I guess we've forgotten the
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We're talking about, we haven't even mentioned the
elephant in the room.
the giant elephant in the room, the atomic bomb in the room.
Yeah.
Who is one of the things that would have sold the film was Karloff as the butler. What was his name?
There's so much fun going in that film that you don't even need Boris, but Boris is in this thing.
Yeah,
and
and
Morgan.
he doesn't have any lines. Morgan.
Yeah, he has a
doesn't-
great entrance. The door crank. He's the one who get the stereotypical archetypal door open, and you see him, and he makes this gurgling sound. The makeup, Jack Pierce makeup again. Fantastic, Jack Pierce just doing another great job with Karloff, and Morgan has this thing has connection with Saul, and they said don't get Morgan drunk, and of course he gets drunk, and so we're going to see Saul come out, and the only thing you see at first is just this hand on the banister, and for a long time they don't show who Saul is, and you're thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen here, and then it's just this sweet little old man comes out, and you're like, oh, he's a sweet little old man.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, but little do we know what's going to happen
I
next.
was watching this movie with my daughter, and it wasn't the restored one. They love watching that film, but it was the earlier Kino copy. And when he comes down the stairs, he's got his hand there for a little bit, and when he starts talking, he seems normal. But when you sort of look away from him, his eyes sort of cut up and over to the corner, sort of like that. And my daughter literally did this. She went like that, and she got scared. It wasn't funny to her. She was genuinely terrified of this. Now, one day the kids are smarting off to me. I decide I'm going to shut them up, and I put on Suspiria. Shut them up. They laughed at it. They thought, oh God, the special effects are terrible. And the girl with the rubber heart and the stupid loud noises and all that kind of stuff. They don't laugh when they watch The Old Dark House. They think it's magnificent. But it just shows you, it just depends on a certain perspective from somebody else whether they're going to be terrified or not. But he really is. He's a genuinely horrifying character.
Yeah, man, when he gets drunk too.
Well, I'm not talking about Morgan. I'm talking about Saul.
Saul too. Oh,
just
gosh, Saul.
He's a delicate little looking thing.
Yeah.
But he's worse than everybody else, and he starts going on to almost like poetry about how flames look like knives. Don't you think they look at like knives, like they'd be cold and all that kind of stuff? And it's like cuckoo, you But the movie builds to a big crescendo of Raymond Massey and him going at it. I love the scene too. I want to back up and talk about one scene that I really like because I was surprised to see this. Just the dialogue in it is the old lady of the house with Gloria Stewart, who has changed into her flowing white dress, and she starts talking about how her cloth is thin and delicate and everything like that, and she goes, that'll rot, and she goes, this is delicate too, and it will rot too. And I love the way Gloria Stewart is horrified, but she's also angry at the same moment. Get your hands off of me, kind of thing, and just goes tearing off down the hallway. Beautiful moments like that.
Very modern sensibility too. I think one reason it's overlooked as a masterpiece and almost is comparable with any of the iconic monster movies is because Wales does some things in here that still hold up today. When the old sister is talking to Gloria Stewart and everything's gonna rot, he does this kind of montage of her faces in the mirror and his jump cuts
all
are
distorted.
Talking. And then after she leaves, Gloria Stewart is looking in the mirror, and the angle she's looking at, it looks like her face is decaying. And then he cuts back into the old lady talking to her again in her mind in this mirror montage. So there's this really editing, and I'd be curious to see if you guys are the ones that have seen it. Is that I think this is right or not? But some of those early talkies, the Universals, there's a pacing problem. There's no music sometimes, and you got to bring yourself in to enjoy them and get locked into it. I don't think this one you don't need to. It's very. No, I mean, it moves.
I bring in lab rats. I bring my brother in to or Linda. Linda likes machete wielding R-rated slasher films. And my brother, he walks in, he kind of walks in like Frankenstein.
Black and white.
Set him down in the chair and all that kind of stuff. And showed it to them both at different times. And when it was over with, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good movie.
It keeps you guessing the whole time. Where the heck is this thing going? And does it really matter? Near the end of it, you don't even you just enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
of this film. One reason I think a lot of people don't know much about it or haven't seen it because Universal lost the rights to circulate it, to show it, and William Castle, along with Hammer, helping out with some
Yeah,
money,
yeah.
they did a remake with Tom Poston. Is that right? I think that.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
Yeah, and so the film was lost, and Curtis Harrington, this interesting
too.
director, genre director, he became a friend of James Wells. He contacted Universal to say, "Where is this film? Is it still around?" It took like 3 times to find it, and then George Eastman House remastered it. And
Well, the first one, does anybody remember what was the name of that film company or the VHS company with the yellow boxes? What was that? It was not Black Hawk. There was one of those like magnetic video or something. What's that?
Blockbuster. They said Blockbuster.
No, I'm talking about the yellow box. It was a company that would put them
Media.
on the VHS. It was one of those real early ones, and the copy that I used to pick up from the library and watch, it looked like a Rorschach test. The contrast was so high quality, high end. It was like if something was white or light, it was white. If it was it was horrible to look at. And then Kino came out with their copy. Oh, thank goodness, this is so much better. But that latest one, I don't know who all owns the very latest restoration from what was it, about 3 years
Cohen
ago?
Media.
Is
Totally recommend it.
superb. It is superb. I can't recommend that enough. I was really PO'd a few years ago when, as you think about this, they go full circle, when Suspiria won Best Restoration for Blu-ray of the year, but Old Dark House was in the running with it. But I mean, how much restoration does a Suspiria need in comparison to this film, which was horribly treated throughout the years? And finally, you get a copy that looks, it's as good as all those other Universal restorations, the Dracula and the Frankenstein and all that stuff.
And deserves it. I remember seeing I had a bunch of friends that are 60 millimeter film collectors, and so I'm in college, and he goes, "I got this film to show you," and I had never heard of it, and he shows it to me. I'm like, "Where has this been? What is the deal on this?" It's an amazing horror film. It should be shoulder to shoulder with Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Bride.
Yeah, I saw it at FSU in the early 70s in our film program.
Where you were the guy bringing them in, right?
Well, I wasn't in charge of it. I was part of the group, though.
Yeah, you were just in charge.
Was it
when
new?
they-
Was it
when
new?
they brought
Was it
in
new
the
to a
prisoner
lot?
and you didn't tell me.
Was it new to a lot of people back then?
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, what was the reaction? Yeah.
The audiences seem to like it, but
Yeah.
then we've been showing all the other Universal monsters that quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People were probably more waiting for a Wolfman or a Frankenstein or
Yeah.
something like that to show up, but
Yeah, but it's still pretty good. I mean, it's a good movie, just not
psychological horror,
And yeah, so like I said, I think it holds up. It doesn't slag or have pacing problems. It has a very modern sensibility, and I think it helps it out a lot.
Yeah.
Wales basically was left untouched with this. No interference from the long.
Also, he was extremely good. We know that with Bride of Frankenstein and the Invisible Man. I mean, the first Frankenstein movie is pretty straightforward. There's not much humor in it,
No.
other than a few moments. But after that, the next 3 horror films that he made had anywhere from a little bit of humor into a lot. I mean, Invisible Man with the bicycle going down the road, and Bride of Frankenstein's loaded with comedy, and this one too. It's black comedy.
Very black comedy in No Dark House, though.
Yeah.
Not as blatant, but it's there. Wells just really had a hoot directing this, and you can
Oh
tell.
yeah. What do you want to do? This? You want to have people ask anything or make comments or anything
That's
first,
fine.
and then go to the next film,
That's
or do
fine.
we
That's
want to?
fine. You make,
Anybody, Bill? You got more, or did we wear you out? You good?
You talk about Old Dark House.
Yeah, we're talking about Old Dark House. Anybody, instead of going to the end and asking questions, anybody got any questions or anything that we can't answer?
So do you think it was an influence on Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's really
Going
strange.
to the creepy house, yeah. I
Well,
would think so.
Or direct?
he opens the door, and it's raining, and they're at the stop. I think I was reading something where they were going to check on him. I don't know if he ever acknowledged that or not. The guy behind wrote it. What's his name?
Richard O'Brien.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I bet.
it can't.
Fellow Brit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And the family is just you're gonna really get just a hoot out of watching this family and these, and, I mean, he, one point, Thester's just walking, he was given flowers by his sister, and he just dumps them in the fire for no reason at all. Just little things like this, that just pepper the whole film, that make you just,
Well, what's weird too is that they, Ernest Thesiger's character obviously has done some really horrible stuff, but at the end of the film, what movies do you have back in old Hollywood where he doesn't get his comeuppance at the end, goodbye,
Yeah.
lovely to meet you, and all that sort of stuff, and it's sort of like, wow, nobody other than Saul,
everything's back to
nobody,
normal.
yeah, I mean,
At the end of the film, I guess I don't hate to spoil it, but everything's just bright and sunshiny, and
Yeah.
everybody's off, going their merry way. Charles Lawton gives an interesting performance.
sure does, yeah.
And Massey and Douglas are solid as always, so.
There's a beautiful fight at the top of the stairs between Massey and Karloff with the lamp. He hits him with the lamp, and they're going at it and tumbling down the stairs and everything. And Karloff is incredibly formidable in this film. I think the only thing that I would look at and go, I wish that Karloff wasn't a mute, and his noise that he makes.
Yeah, it's
I'm like, okay, that's a little cornball. But
yeah, if anything, if there is any technical problem I have with the film, which, the other monster movies, I have some technical problems. I get a little picky sometimes, too picky.
Yes.
But this, but this one, I thought that's like the only really minor tweak I would have tweaked was his.
You're in a movie with so many good speaking and great actors
Yeah.
and actresses, and it's sort of like Karloff, who is really famous at this point, is an automaton
Yeah.
in a way. You still have sympathy for him. He loves Saul and everything, and when Saul gets killed, he's very horrified and everything. He's got humanity in him. There was an image of Gloria Stewart on the cover of Famous Monsters. I guess was it Gogos? I think did it. Basil Gogos did it. But it's her, the famous picture of her at the door looking out with the scared look on her face. And instead of Karloff's hand, they did Karloff's hand, but they put these long, sharp fingernails on it because I guess it wasn't. Forey probably said it's not creepy enough, just a hand.
It would have more of a cat and canary trying to promote that atmosphere
Probably, yeah.
thing, which is not in the film. And there's another scene. There's another lobby card with her in her nightgown with Morgan. It's not accurate in the movie either.
Yeah.
But so
Great stuff.
okay.
I hate to say it, I gotta move over something. Bloody air conditioner's blowing on me.
Oh, okay.
It's making me, or is it just what we're talking about? Am I so scared?
So are we going in?
The old dark panel.
Are we going in chronological order?
No, go ahead and
Okay.
go on.
Well, let's go to the next one. That you will just sit here and we'll talk the rest of panel A, the Black Cat. We're going to jump into the Black Cat in 1934.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I
How many people have seen the Black Cat? How many people haven't? Okay, there's a few.
Oh, well, I'm fixing to ruin it for you. I'll tell you the first time I saw it, 1969, Air Force Base, South Dakota. My mom's yelling, it's 4th of July, and she's yelling to me, fireworks are getting ready to start up in, you're on flatland, so you can see the fireworks from miles away. Fireworks getting ready to start, 5 kids in the house. Black Cat is on television. Never seen it. Turn it on, Karloff Lugosi.
How old you were?
I would have been about 6 or 7.
6 or 7
like
years old. If you know the subject matter of this movie, that's,
Actually, it's after code.
No,
but it feels.
it got shot in pre-code, and the code got enforced by the time it was out in the theaters. That's when the code got started.
This is why I bring him along, people. So anyway, I'm watching this thing, and I'm so riveted. It's about halfway through, and my mama goes, "Okay, the fireworks just started up," and I'm going looking at the TV, and I'm going like I'm going to go to the back door and look out the back door, and I finally went, forget it. I'm not doing this. I'm going to watch this film. Never gave a damn about fireworks ever again in my life, except for Walt Disney World where they're so spectacular. But I'm like, I just don't care anymore. It broke the whole thing of I got to see the fireworks. I usually go on and put the Black Cat on TV. But
How many times have you seen that?
oh, maybe. I haven't seen it as many times as the 1951 version of The Thing, but there's a good possibility it's close to 100 times.
I just saw it for the first time within the last 2-3 years.
What are you doing on this panel?
I've been sitting on this Bela Lugosi box set.
That
and-
moose.
And finally, I claim to be a pseudo monster kid, and I don't think I have the rights to. But
Ted is a serious cinema guy and just hangs out with a lot of monster kids, so he kind of gets forced into.
no, I'm the right age to be a monster kid. I mean, I'm sort of. But anyway, so I knew about this film and read about this film. It's Edward J. Ulmer. Edgar
G.
Ulmer. I always butcher his name. Very interesting career. We could spend the whole rest of our time talking about him.
He had a career, especially with that film. It looked like he was going to have a great career.
Yeah.
But what did Kenneth Branagh say? He had an affair with a lemle.
Yeah.
And so a niece of one of the uncles or something like that, and that really killed him at Universal. They blacklisted him.
Yeah, and also the fact the film had problems when Carl saw the film, and because they were away in Europe or something, they were I think they were in Europe when he was doing the film, and he was getting away with all this stuff in the film that you'll be amazed at if you watch the film, and then they come back and they go, oh my gosh, we can't release this. This is just too deviant, too dark, and too crazy. So they had to do a lot of reshoots and fix the film a lot. But this is the first film with Karloff and Lugosi together, at the first time. So they really had a box office bonanza going here. I mean, it's going to be the two monsters, Frankenstein and Dracula, in the same film. So that's the anticipation, the expectation for this thing was through the roof. I think it
succeeded.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It might be my favorite Universal movie.
Basically, I'll give the shortcut. Lugosi, they're World War I veterans, people messed up by World War I. Lugosi gets on a train with these two young couples. They're on their honeymoon, getting headed to their honeymoon. He's going to this castle where this engineer lives and it's a castle built on a grave site of tons of corpses. World War I site, he has taken his wife and his daughter away from him years ago, and Lugosi's been incarcerated in concentration.
He did it with a lie too.
camps.
He said Lugosi was dead.
Yeah.
And so come away with me. So
And then Lugosi gets there. An accident happens on they get on a bus and the bus crashes. So they have to go. The couple has to go in with Lugosi, and Lugosi has a manservant with him. They get in there, and then interesting things start to happen.
It starts off kind of okay at first, but the wife seems to be almost a little, she's injured herself in the crash, so they kind of dope her up at first, but you start to realize that Lugosi, he actually has kind of let it know earlier in the film that he's there to take care of some kind of business, and he gets there with and starts talking to Karloff, but it's really quick that when nobody else is around, he talks cold turkey or talks turkey to Karloff, and it's like, I owe you for what you did to me.
Yeah. So with my fresh eyes on this, watching this, as opposed to you growing up with it, seeing it 100 times, I'm really intrigued by Lugosi because is he a good actor? Is he hammy? There's always this ongoing dialogue about what Lugosi's talent. I think he does a wonderful job in this. He really did some really good acting, and I think Ulmer tapped him down some. And then Karloff, his performance is interesting too because he starts out, you don't know where he's playing, and again, an interesting makeup job with the hair and the wardrobe design. This film is amazing, and he starts playing. So by the time you get the two really going at it, but originally, they were both. Lugosi was supposed to be a bad guy in this film, along with Karloff, and they changed it so that Lugosi actually comes out a much better guy at the end.
That's one of the things I love about this movie so much. You expect Lugosi to be the bad
Right.
guy. Maybe you could see that Karloff would be the bad guy as well, but he's kind of the. It's
nice. It was nice to change.
He's a very dark good guy. Of course, flaying the man's skin off of his body isn't really what good guys do, but
Spoiler the ending here. No, that's good. Everybody's seen it. I was seeing you.
in the film, at first you kind of are suspicious that Lugosi is a bad guy. Well, he is a bad guy to one person, Karloff. He's there to get him.
Right.
And then you find out this is such a sick movie that not only did he, I guess him and the wife really didn't get along so well or something happened, he kills her, puts her in a glass case with some other women. I don't even know who those other women
Yeah,
are, other
right.
wives or something. And has their hair tousled up almost like in a Bride of Frankenstein way. So then his glass case is just floating there, and he just goes out and
And the
looks
first
at him
time-
every night.
and
But then he has taken
The
the
stepdaughter.
the stepdaughter, and has now married her. And then by the end of the film, Lugosi goes downstairs, and the young lady of the movie, the one that injured, goes, he goes, no, your daughter is here in the house and everything like that. She's married to Harold Perlzig, Karloff's name, named after a famous architect, a European architect. And he immediately, I don't know how he finds this thing so fast, but he runs in. But because Karloff saw her talking to the leading lady of the film, he kills her. And Lugosi runs into this room, and there's this table with this sheet on it or whatever, and he pulls it back. So the first time he's seen his daughter as an adult, she's laying there dead, having just been murdered. And he goes off the chain,
Yeah.
you know.
And of course, the first time we see the daughter, I was amazed at this because the timing of when this film came out, Karloff's in the bed with her. He raises out of the bed, and there she is, almost mummified in the bed. I'm like, ooh.
He raises out of the bed, and for all of us older people that have sciatic issues, here's the legs are here, and the music is all beautiful classical music. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic use of music. You watch the first Dracula.
Schubert,
you
Liszt.
watch the first Liszt. You watch the first Frankenstein. There's a little at the beginning, and there's like at the end of the film, and the rest of it's silent. Pretty much in terms of music. This movie's got it all through it. It's very flowing.
Finally figuring that out.
But Karloff sits there and just like from the waist up just goes, and I just go like, ooh, oh, no way. I think I tried it like 5 years ago, and it was like, it was an attraction for a week. It was, but the design, okay, now here's another really important thing about this film. They threw out the old dark house look.
Yes.
It's the
German expressionism.
Expressionism, Bauhausian. Bauhaus. I knew you would know that. But it's so not what a horror film should look like. It almost borders on Flash Gordon, especially that radio at the beginning. They're downstairs waiting for you, doctor. You know, I mean, with all this beautiful Art Deco and everything, all the furniture, everything's brightly lit. The pillars. If you get a chance, come by my table. You don't have to buy it. But I've got my print for the cover of Scream magazine that I did, and I said I have to get Karloff, I have to get Lugosi on there, I've got to get the two leads, I got to get the henchmen, and I've got to get the wall in the living room. I mean, it's this weird sort of lit set of cubes and everything. It was. I mean, even as a kid, I said, "This is genius."
Yeah,
you know?
it's very striking. And then, but I do like the fact that he kind of, when they go down to the lab underneath it, it goes back a little bit to German expressionism.
The downstairs is creepy. It's still, it was the
so you get the
fort.
two things going on there.
Yeah.
They have totally abandoned the German expressionism that the other horror films have, but the Bauhaus look is amazing.
And you find out that Karloff, on top of all of his other scummery, is this devil cult worshipping dude. You know, you can't have too many things to keep you busy. And they're going to sacrifice the young lady that has just come to the house with things get really weird. The music gets really creepy. I mean, in terms of the organ playing and all that, and beautiful, almost, like large format camera portraits of everybody. They show the faces of all these different people as they're starting to take in that they're going to kill this woman.
So when did it dawn on you that this thing's playing with a lot of deviance in many various forms? And you're watching this as a 6-year-old, you're not picking up on that, other than just the surface. But I mean, it's got sexual deviance and satanic worshiping and violence and reincarnation, supernatural elements.
Yeah,
There's
there
a black
really
cat
technically is no supernatural in this film. You could look at it and sort
infer
of you can infer clear cut.
No, nothing's clear cut. That's the beauty of this film, I think.
Yeah.
Is that Ulmer and the screenplay writers and probably the tampering with the editing, post-editing, everything's left to your imagination. You got to bring what the backstories to all this stuff and kind of fill in the holes.
Yeah.
And once you start filling the holes, you start getting more horrified because what they give you is just really, tantalizing, horrible, deviant stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Karloff, I mean, there is a difference between Lugosi and Karloff. Karloff is a flaming scumbag. He is, I think he's almost worse in this than almost anything else you ever see him in. He purely doesn't give a crap for anybody but himself. Dead wives, dead.
Again, showing the range of
stepdaughter
Karloff's
wives.
acting ability too, because
Yeah.
he's so good at playing sympathetic, you know.
But for a while there, you're asking the question, how bad of a bad guy is Lugosi? When you're watching him at first, and it's like when he goes back upstairs and tries to comfort the girl, even then I'm saying, well, is this
Well,
a
like I
lie?
said, yeah, if you read up on it and you see some of the post editing they had to fix, that's some of this leftovers of him when he was a total bad guy.
Yeah.
And they did take it all
It's a
out.
good balance,
Yeah, they like when they're playing chess. Lugosi says if we would, him and Karloff play a chess game, and if Lugosi says if I win, the couple gets to go free. If Karloff wins, he gets the woman. He gets the girl, the young woman. That chess set actually, Lugosi was playing to get the woman for himself. The original screenplay.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to.
It's better the way they did it.
No, very much so.
But when he lost, he should have said, how about 2 out of 3? He loses. David Manners is our young hero, although he gets beat up a lot and knocked out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else. What else do we?
No,
need
I
to
think
say?
everybody agrees. It's all of you seen it. You think it's wonderful, isn't it? And that's any interesting observations on your part or input?
Anybody? Bill's asleep, so you're reflecting on the movie. I'm playing it behind my closed eyelids. I love it. I can't. I mean, if a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 10.
I'm just surprised at how dark it is. Watching it with modern sensibility as an adult, I was like, wow, this is really going heavily dark. And then if you start filling it in, the story that's left up to you to fill in, it gets pretty creepy.
And then, like a year or two later, what do you mean? A year, maybe the same year, they did The Raven with Karloff and Lugosi. Not nearly as good. I mean, it's got some good moments, especially the scene with Lugosi. You realize that Karloff is a criminal who's trying to change the look of his face, and Lugosi's this surgeon that can do it. So he goes to him, and he basically reshapes his face into this horrific monster with one more bulging eye and everything. And I remember seeing that the same night as it must have been a double feature back then, but that came on, and when he pulls back the bandages and Karloff's like, how do I look, and the eyes doing this, I'm like, that is like modern day Sick, the look on his face. And Lugosi goes up in this little window inside the operating room, is laughing down at him, and it's just like, but the movie doesn't have the same level of quality. I think it's still not a bad movie, but
I guess we should point out too that it's loosely going back to the Black Cat. It's got Edgar Allan Poe listed as a source material, but it's not.
So
but they
far
use it.
away.
They use it for promotional purposes mainly. That they got. It was like
people it. You know
Karloff,
the name.
Lugosi, and Eddie.
Eddie.
But
Yeah.
so that okay. So if we're on Karloff, do you want to jump to the oddball in the group, and then we'll see the interesting.
Yeah, I want to
ones?
get that. I want to make that last one short as possible because I know you're going to rag on
No,
it,
I'm.
and I'm going to have to lead through the air, elbow you in the head. He's going to have to pan real quick, so be ready.
So like I said, we were trying to pick out some overlooked horror films, and try to say Universal because we were trying to come up with a snappy title. We never did for this panel, but Warner Brothers. This is a Warner Brothers film directed by Michael Curtiz,
Casablanca fame.
1936. We jump ahead, and it's The Walking Dead, not the new Walking Dead. This is the original, called
The original Walking Dead.
So you want to tell them the plot on that? It's kind of a mashup of gangster and horror film.
It really is, and it's pretty well done.
Yeah, and Warner Bros. Are the experts on gangsters. So
I mean, basically, there's some gangsters who want a guy rubbed out, and so they hire a patsy. They hire a guy to kill him. How do they get it? I can't remember again. It's been a little while.
it's kind of complicated. They get a lawyer that actually says I'll defend you, but then he actually makes it so that he's going to the electric chair.
He goes to
It's
the
a lawyer
electric
working
chair.
for the gangsters.
Luckily, there just happens to be a mad scientist there with some, doing some
And
experiments on
Santa Claus
resuscitation.
himself.
Yeah, Santa Claus himself. from
Edmund Gwynn.
Miracle on 34th Street.
So okay, first of all, who's seen this one?
Yeah, I forgot. Ooh.
And have not seen it. Wow,
We're in
okay.
trouble.
We probably,
Maybe we should,
but but it's, like I said, it's Warner Brothers in a box set, another Lugosi Karloff box set, and it's part of that. Anyway, what I was surprised at, it's new to me just recently, was how, it's almost an inverse of Frankenstein in some ways.
James,
Yeah.
could you do me a favor and go get my jacket? I'm freezing like to death.
Where is it at?
You know where my table is? Please. Thank you.
That's what the
That's my
family,
son
Aaron
Frankenstein.
boy. So anyway, so at the last second, he gets electrified, and he's pronounced dead.
Yes.
And it's really cutting close, and the gangsters are all drinking and having a good time. And Edward Woods has been experimenting with this young couple, not on them, but with them, about bringing life back from the dead. So he gets to try it out on Karloff, and he brings Karloff in, and they actually get him to come back, but he's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
And his hair and looks have been a little modified because of what happened.
It's almost a
procedure.
little bit Frankenstein monster, just a little bit and combined with a skunk.
Yeah, and
It's like he's got this white shock of hair and everything. It's a cool look.
yeah, and he's really lethargic. He doesn't talk much. Little things are coming back to him. He has no memory hardly of anything. He was a piano player too, and he can start play. He has retained his skill of playing the piano. So eventually, what happens is he's going to go to each gangster, and he just approaches each one of them and goes, "Why did you do this to me? Why did you kill me? Why did you want me dead?" And
Yeah,
And-
it was a weird thing too because Karloff never acts villainous or anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
it's
Appreciate it.
the sympathetic Karloff that we like to see.
Yeah.
Well,
he was always good at that.
yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
because I think because as opposed to
Well, except for the Black Cat.
yeah, the Black Cat.
But I mean, it's
So-
Frankenstein. Even then, with
There's
him,
even
there's
points-
moments where especially Bride of Frankenstein, where you actually feel sorry for him. But in this one, he never even does anything like commit a murder or anything.
Well, yeah, well, that's the interesting thing. We're going to be spoiling it for a lot of people here, but watch how he approaches every gangster, and he approaches them with the accusation of his death.
What's the matter?
Uh,
I'm looking at face. Are we spoiling it?
Is that? Should we not say what
You want
happened?
to go? Anyway, there's a big car chase at the end of the machine gun battle. A lot of
Shall I leave it alone?
death-defying CGI.
I'm going to defer to
like that.
Sean, and Sean says we should probably not talk. Even though it's interesting how each murder takes place, when you watch it, you'll hopefully catch on and see how. Oh, that's very interesting. Actually, it was used again in a certain way in a Lee Marvin film in Point Blank. If anybody's seen that, I mean, you might know what I'm talking about, but.
Let's spoil that one for him too. Yes,
So-
Bill.
Wasn't there like a whole bunch of films where Karloff was the wrongly accused man, but then gets
There-
revenge by killing everybody,
Yes.
including the innocent?
The great one
Yeah.
that I really love too, this is a little bit more basic and a little bit more lowbrow, is The Man They Could Not Hang,
Yes.
where he was kind of rotten, and he did get killed for his crimes, and he comes back and he goes, "Everybody on the jury, I'm going to kill you," and they're all in the house. One guy gets electrocuted, another guy gets a poison dart, another one has to sit through Footloose or something. You know?
Odd kind of role casting, of being cast in the same place over and over. Yes, you're always going to be the person who's seeking revenge.
Yeah, I think those are Columbia Mad Scientist films that you're talking about.
Yeah.
There was The Man They Could Not Hang, Before I Hang, Dang a Hang,
Yes.
Shang-a-Lang,
Dr.
I
Coffin
forget.
or something. There was a million of them.
How are we doing time-wise?
We are at 3:44. Let me just say about this film is I really thought was interesting was that they, like I said, I think it's kind of almost an inverse of Frankenstein, a kind of a benevolent Frankenstein creature, and they actually just, at some point there's actually a couple scenes where he's got his arms up,
Yeah.
and it almost reminds you of the creature in the early parts of the creature, and the fact that Karloff's choice of how he plays his character very smart acting choices.
Yeah.
You really get to see that this guy's got a lot of range, and it's just not a. I mean, they could have got any other, even maybe even Lugosi would have played it just so stiff, or with big choices that would have been too obvious. Karloff does a very subtle job of playing this guy that's back from the dead, that's been revived, and how he handles that is very interesting. And there's a very interesting spiritual subtext to this whole thing too, so that you can pick up on and talk about and get into.
One of the things about this, when these mobsters are kind of getting their comeuppance, they don't ever really tell you, because you don't think it's Karloff himself that's doing it. He even tells people, no, don't go near the window or whatever. But you kind of get the feeling that it's like he's channeling some kind of judgmental thing from God.
Well, yeah, and when you watch the ending, you'll see what I mean by that.
Yeah.
The spiritual subtext is very interesting, and so you got this really strange mashup of gangster film, monster film, Karloff, spirituality, all this stuff happening, and it's under the direction of Michael Curtiz. This is the Casablanca director. This is the multi-Oscar-winning nominated director that was.
He was one of those guys that seemed like he could do any kind of film.
Yes.
He would take on any project, and he always did a great job. So.
It's a Warner Brothers film. If a lot of you haven't seen it, I would seek it out, especially if you're a Karloff fan. I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised.
And if you come by my table, I've got a nice print from The Walking Dead that I did for the cover of We Belong Dead magazine, the British magazine.
And of course, we're in 1936 now, so the movies they're getting down how to make these things really good. 18-day shoot. They shot that thing in 18 days, and it just holds up, and it's really snappy, moves right along. You enjoy all the character actors that show up in it.
It's got that Warner Brothers polish to it.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. Yeah, very very good film. Very very good film.
So that's the three. That was but the one we had skipped over, and I mentioned this to him last night, and Mark about had a fit.
I told him. I said, "Am I allowed to ask if anybody minds profanity?"
No, actually I watched it again. I watched this for the first time recently, and I've heard a lot about it, and I'm prone to like it, and I do. So
Thank you, Ted. Go ahead.
Anyway, it's 1932, Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Bela Lugosi.
With Bela Lugosi.
How many people have seen it?
Yeah.
That's a little better.
How many haven't seen that? Okay.
Technically, that one isn't that straightforward enough from the Poe?
There's things changed in it. Go ahead. What?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's I read the post story.
It's different, or
they have the ape and they have the.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
people
supposed
know
to be about an ape
that.
that escapes.
It's
Yeah.
Doesn't have all the science.
Science, right? Yeah.
right. Okay.
Basically, you got Lugosi. Now, this is why I do love the look of Lugosi. Lugosi looks amazingly cool with this. He's got put a really interesting hairdo on him, and he's just hamming it up. As Dr.
I think he has one eyebrow, right?
Yeah, big eyebrow. And and it's such a nice change of pace because Lugosi's hair is usually matted down or real short, and this thing's just like
It's supposed to be Paris in what year?
1845, I think.
Okay.
And he has a gorilla who wants to basically mate with a woman.
Well, he wants to combine the blood
Yeah.
of an ape.
With a
With a woman.
see, that's the thing. There's a lot of influence. A lot
Well,
of
there's
things.
both, but he literally is taking women, killing them, or in the middle of draining their blood to pump it into the ape.
And let me back up. Robert Florey, the director, is a very interesting guy, very interesting career. If you look him up, he was supposed to do he was supposed to do Frankenstein. Dracula was a huge hit. He was doing Frankenstein with Lugosi. Well, Lugosi balked because he thought, I don't want to play somebody that doesn't talk. And Florey was not in favor as much as Whale was with the Universal guy, Powers That Be. So they shoved him over on this film.
Yeah.
And Lugosi goes with him, and so they start working on this film. And so then the plot line is like he has this ape. There's a young couple again, and it's Dupin, the famous detective that Poe created, even though they changed his first name in the film for some reason. And he's trying to figure out something's going on. There's these killings going on. He's trying to solve the mystery, which is caused by Lugosi and his ape. and then finally they figure it out and they go chasing the ape, across the cityscapes of Paris.
Yeah.
No, the only I think the first time I watched, I think I gave it a lot more leadway. Maybe the second time it hurt me a little bit more because I was analyzing it too much. Because it got tampered with majorly, re-edited, reshot. Florey wasn't on the good side of the Lamel. How do you say their names? I can't. Lemley.
Lemley.
I always butcher that. I seem to see the holes, like especially when they go from a gorilla in a suit.
Yeah,
And
I'll go along with that.
the closer
you
they
go
go-
from a real ape to a completely different looking sort of ape
Chimp,
costume.
a chimpanzee,
yeah,
close up.
Yeah, right.
And-
The big muzzle and everything.
From a zoo. They went over to the zoo and just shot this chimpanzee reacting, and it doesn't really work. I mean, I give kudos for trying, but when I said like some of these early Universals are creaky and pacing problems and audio, they haven't figured out how to do audio and get music in there. I mean, this has a lot of that going on in it.
See, I find that charming. I like that.
Well, I know. Well, and obviously everybody, a lot of people like it because that's you almost have to forgive that. A lot of those films.
How much time we got left? Oh, you're not
10 minutes.
you're not the timekeeper. How many?
I am the timekeeper. We're
Over or done?
over a little bit.
Oh,
Oh, well, real quick. The girl, the prostitute, two guys are having a knife fight. That shocked me as a little kid. One stabs
Yes.
the other one, they both fall under, they're both dead. Lugosi comes up to the prostitute and says, come with me, and she doesn't want to. Next thing you know, she's up on this kind of crucifix looking kind of thing with him jamming these needles in her. The actress is, tell me the name.
Arlene Francis.
Arlene Francis, who used to be on the TV show
What's my line?
What's My Line? But if you ever saw her in she's incredibly funny in a movie called 1, 2, 3 with James Cagney, absolutely hilarious. Well, apparently on the set, she's up here going like this, and they go, "Okay, cut, that was good." And then she sits there while Lugosi's getting prepped for the next scene, and she starts cracking jokes. Because she was very funny, very good at it. And she kept doing it, he kept on trying to do his stuff, and she kept cracking jokes, and he's like, "Tell her to shut up, she's messing up the mood of making the film," kind of thing. So,
Why do you like it? Why did you want it on this list? Real quick.
I think that it is a very poetic horror poetry sort of a looking film.
Florey believes a lot to that, yes.
The buildings, the sets, the rooftops, the time period, the costumes on all the people. They're slightly older. We usually think 1890, Sherlock Holmes, 1920s, stuff like that. It is creepy. The thoughts behind it are creepy. The whole thing of an ape breaking into a room, not only killing the mother and the daughter, but like one of them's watching while the ape kills one and then kills the other, and then this other guy gets blamed for it. It's just a beautiful film. The whole part at the beginning where he's explaining how he wants to, he basically, he doesn't even give a damn about the audience at the circus or whatever that he's talking to. He's more important than they are. And amongst these beautiful sets and everything, he explains that mankind and evolution was going, and it was like a real shock, and people were yelling at him and stuff.
Sort of an anti-religious Christian thoughts on this thing. Again, like Black Hat, a lot of things that you get to infer and bring to it, and it's unsaid, but it's there. It's there if you look for it. And don't get me wrong, go see it, watch the film, and you got, and especially for Lugosi, I just found it. I was struggling a little bit after the second time with it.
But you're a modern man looking at a 1932 movie,
Right.
which they were just coming out of the silent
No,
era
and
still.
and
So.
you got to be a little loose.
All right, we got to go.
So,
I think
thanks.
we're finished, right? Thanks, Peter. You did a good job.
No,
No, you did a good job. No, you did a good job.